Lives. Welcome to another episode of The Glorious Mess. I'm Raymond, and as always, I'm in a real life room. We've created that 70s show because we're here in person with each other, which is amazing. Wow. I know it's real life. All of our timings will be on because we can like actually see.
Yeah.
The timings
guaranteed we'll still be able to cut each other.
Oh, absolutely.
I have seen nothing. And today we're getting sexual, and so we've decided to wear sexy clothes. I've got some mesh. Brahman 2 has some mesh, and Brahma got some glitter. We are diving in. This episode is called Let's Talk About Sex, Baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may bring. Let's talk about it. All right. And what better way than to just get right in and start with story time and talk about the number one important question that all of our listeners are asking about. What is your virginity story?
Yes. Very good. Shout out to Alec Delcourt.
Name drop. Boom.
I was a late bloomer.
Okay.
As far as like, yeah, I lost my virginity at beginning of grade 11, I think. So I would have been
Like 17?
16, 17. I think 17. I was a December baby, so I was like probably 16.
Yeah.
And it was I'm not okay, to be fair, I can't really remember. I used to lie about when it happened so much that I can't remember if that was actually the time. Because I liked it. I think it was really chill. I'm pretty sure he was staying over at my house and then he snuck into my room. And then I just have like a very like clear memory of his like hand going down the front of my underwear. And all I remember was like, is this the time when I was supposed to be like shaven? Because I got like a 70s bush going on, and that's all I was thinking about the entire time. Was if I should have like set myself up better. But at that point, like I wasn't his first, so I was like fucking ready to go. Like I've always been very comfortable with intimacy or like sexy or knowing about that stuff. And so I was ready to be like, listen, I'm ready. Let's fucking go. It didn't hurt, and honestly, it was good.
The first wet ass pussy.
Like I'm 85. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like I think it's like as far as like actually like orgasming goes, I'm pretty sure I did. But like I mean, you have so many different as a woman parts. You can have so many different variations. But at 16, I was pretty impressed.
Damn. Well, mine was like similar in the sense of like a sleepover, but I was like a little younger, and I'm sure my mom's gonna send me a text message after she listens to the episode. But like, I was young, but like, so I was dating this girl named Isabella. Isabella was my, Isabella was my like first kiss, and I remember like our first kiss together. We were on a hill, and her friend was like kind of giving us a tutorial, like, do this, try this, and so I remember we're on the hill. And she like, we kiss, and I thought that in the movies you like make that sound as you do it. So I just remember like kissing her, being like,
People do that. Actually, like gives me so much the ache when you start humming.
Well, so we're dating. We're living our happy life in elementary school, and so then one day I want to have a sleepover. Oh, let's skip over that part. And so I'm like, we're dating, and so I want to have a sleepover one day, and like Isabella's grandparents lived with her and her parents, and so they were like, okay, you can sleep over, but you have to like sleep downstairs with like her brother who's like grade ahead of us. And I was like, okay, I'll sleep downstairs. And then we go to bed, we're like watching a movie, and then one thing led to another.
It's always Netflix
and chill. We're full, the OG Netflix and chill in elementary. And we like start hooking up, and like I fully like was bottoming. Really young. Yeah. Yes. Hey, now I'm strictly verse. Okay. I'm very versatile with diversity because I started so young. Obviously, like I've been there, done the bottom thing. But and so that was my first like sexual experience. It was like super consensual. So like I'm sure like any psychologist, social worker is like, that's too young for a child,
Yeah.
or da, da, da. But I'm like, it was very consensual, it was very fun. I was just like
Yeah.
excited. And when I like look back at it now, I'm like, I realized that like he probably maybe could have been sexually abused potentially, or
Yeah.
like maybe he learned it from the internet. I'm not sure, like, because there is that potential
Yeah.
that like
You think
how
it
did
is.
they learn that
Yeah.
behavior? But for me, it was very fun. I had fun. I loved it.
Yeah.
So we're 10 out of 10. Yeah, I loved it.
I do love that, like, I'm not gonna talk about Virginity story, but I do like the one thing that both of you brought up that I also share the same sentiment is that you both recall it being fun.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I really like that because I remember I thought about virginity as a whole a lot when I was probably between the age of like 15 to 17. Like it was really stewing on my brain because it was like this huge thing that people were making a big deal of. And
Yeah.
I never thought it was a big deal or anything like that. I thought it was supposed to be fun or it was just a thing that like you would do eventually whenever you wanted to or whatever, but it
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be like this milestone of like
Yeah.
rite of passage. And it felt like everybody around me else was like, what have you lost it yet? Well, I'm gonna do it now. Or like,
Yeah.
it
Oh
was
yeah, it
just,
was huge in high
you
school.
know,
I
and
know
like,
it's where
what
we're here.
happened to it just be fun?
Yeah.
This is very true.
What happened to fun? What happened to just connecting with a person just for the hell of it?
Yeah.
You know?
And the stories around like virginity come from like, again, freaking media. It's always like we
Yeah.
learn so much through like Jersey Shore
Yeah.
show, or like
And it's always like either people have like horror stories of like it was so bad or blah blah blah, or like even not like a non-horror story, but of like yeah, it was like mid, nothing happened, blah blah, like it was awkward. You
Yeah.
never really hear about like yeah, I mean it was nothing special, but I had fun. Like I had a good
Yeah.
time. You know, you don't really hear much about those,
Yeah.
especially as a virginity story. You know.
Yeah.
And it becomes a huge part of your like high school identity. Like
Yes.
almost like a place of shame, like your first sexual shame of like you haven't lost your virginity
Or
yet.
if you lose it too early, then it's like you're a slut.
Yeah.
Or if you slept with multiple people in high school, or
Yeah.
you've slept with all the boyfriends you've had, like
Yeah.
not just you
Yeah.
know, like yeah, it was like, or you aren't dating and
Or it was also just like how you like how people knew about you socially of like, oh, that person slept with that person
Yeah.
and that person and that person. Or
Yeah.
that they haven't slept with each other yet, or you know, like
Yeah.
it's this indicator.
Yeah. And that's I hate that shit the
okay,
most.
tangent.
Yeah.
But do you think with our age group, I just had a thought about like I'd never seen porn, like literally had never seen porn until way after high school because I
Oh.
didn't have the internet and I didn't have. So I'm almost wondering like, was my time so chill and like fun because I had no like. I think if I had seen porn first, I would have been like, I don't know how to do any of that. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
But because all I was like, I was also raised like sex is a form of sharing love with another person or energy. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was taught pleasure based, like in my house
Yeah,
versus like man and a woman
Yeah.
or
Whereas,
whatever, you know,
Yeah.
like, so I'm wondering though, because I know that I was also pretty sheltered, like didn't have internet until grade 10, was only allowed to like, you know,
Yeah.
but like, did you watch a lot of porn when you were young?
I don't know if I did. I had
I
magazines.
mean, there was Tumblr.
Yeah.
I
but-
remember having
Well,
magazines.
the thing is, like, I would probably assume maybe not because I think that my generation was definitely a generation where, like, whether you watched it or didn't watch it,
You've seen
porn
clips
was
or
like
clips.
it blew up
Mhm.
because social media. Like, I grew up with a generation where, like, I was the start. Like,
Yeah.
when the Snapchat started when I was like in grade 8, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so, like, yeah, and so I think that was also simultaneous with like media and like porn and like
Yeah.
any kind of really, really just blew up. And I think that's why it was like such a hyper focus. Like,
What?
you know?
And I feel like Snapchat was originally invented to like be to send
Yeah,
nudes.
because it disappears.
Like what else was it for?
There was a whole assembly because Snapchat blew up and there was lots of things going around as what Snapchat was supposed to be for. And
Yeah.
so they had like the police came. It was this huge assembly about like social media safety and like
Good,
that.
honestly.
Like it was great. Like it was great that
But-
they
Yeah.
had it, but I just all of a sudden it was like a memory unlocked where I was like,
Oh
I remember being like in the gym and having them talk about like, you know, like Snapchat like keeps, you know, your thing. So like anything you send, even if you delete it, like Snapchat has it as the like in their HQ fault, like all of those things.
Some 70-year-old man has it at HQ. He's like,
Lit. I just remember them just like trying to spook all of us, and they're just like, man, we don't want to be here.
I don't want to be here. I just want to send my tits on the Snapchat.
Like,
Well, okay, well, I mean, now let's do our own formal presentation with our lovely segment. Fast facts about sex and queerness. Big little shit.
We should have a jingle for
Right.
every time we do fast that.
And so, like, being that we're all queer, knowing that we're all queer around this table and like this intersection of sex and that,
Happy Pride.
yeah, happy Montreal Pride. To be clear.
And maybe
And BC Pride.
Oh yeah, it's Vancouver now too.
Yeah.
Happy gay stuff.
happy gay stuff.
365.
Happy queers.
But Brahma, do you have any fast facts you want to share with us today?
Well, I do know that queer people face a lot of different social pressures and stigmas around sex, but also like, for example, I identify as bisexual.
Which I forget all the time.
Yeah. For years I had to remind Armand or Jay that I was like, I'm queer. Never booked me for any queer. It's true. I lost my thought here. Oh yeah. And so a lot of the time there's actually facts that youths really struggle with stuff like that.
Yeah. Amen. You struggle.
I think it also is like part of, see, already I'm like reflecting of the uncomfortableness, like, and even for me it took me a really long time to even like hold my ground and still be like, no, I am queer enough to take up space, to have conversations about this, especially in high school and middle school and like growing up, because I was so fluid. I kind of just assumed everyone else was as well, like I'm not any different. And it wasn't until I started having conversations, or it was dismissed, like, oh, like you just, played Kiss the Bottle and kissed Katie, and I liked it. But like, so, or like my friend, we fooled around like practice, like
did rehearsal. You did
did
rehearsal.
so like, and then you find, and then also like obvious one too, especially even just being fluid, or it's like kissing girl on girl is so hot, it becomes sexualized for like either the viewer or your partner or whatever, especially if you are somebody that dabbles in like the straight world as well, it becomes super hypersexualized over there as well. Like, maybe I just want to kiss Katie for myself.
Well, and then also like segues that, like, I feel like because of those things, like a lot of queer people will find more non-traditional ways, or even just like redefine what traditional means for like sex and intimacy and all of that stuff, and like the journey, because I think that a lot of us do go through that process of like, am I queer enough, or like, what does that look like for me, how am I going to show that, like that also then translates to then how you take that out to when you are connecting with a person and getting into those intimate moments, but also just like what you view as like, well, I want my sex to look like this way, or I want my relationship to look like this way, like, because there's a lot of, I feel like queers, because of society, we question a lot of ourselves. It then leads us to then question or figure out really specific ways that kind of become really individual to person, versus like, the straight ways of like, this is kind of the textbook of like, sex looks like this.
And that's, I think, with sexual education in schools and like the inability for schools to prepare you to like explore the depth, like should really be about just like practicing safety from a health method.
Sex ed that I had was trash. Tell me how we literally had a race. We had two wooden condoms, and it was girls versus boys of who can put the condom on the fastest. That was the sex ed.
God. And then you focus on the penis, the male, not recognizing there's female condoms. And that there's also like people who don't want to put a condom on a cock. Maybe we want to scissor sisters there.
Well, and then also there's not a lot of just free education, and it's always so like cut and dry, binary, like how to practice this so women don't get pregnant. Like that's the like, or STDs, like that's the only two concerns. And I was watching an amazing documentary on Netflix. It was called something but pleasure. Principles of Pleasure. I learned so much in that 3-episode thing that I like, so, and I learned that in high school, and it was simply about approaching pleasure and intimacy with another person it doesn't have to be like this is your end goal. Like I
Yeah.
think there would be so much more room for people to explore. You know, then you have people that are really hypersexual. You have people that are asexual. You have
Yeah.
people that are, you know, like what if I just want to pleasure your body and I don't want you to touch mine? Then no, you grow up thinking there's something really fucking wrong with you.
Yeah.
When in reality it's like like when in reality it's like no, you're a certain type of person that enjoys a certain type of intimacy, and there's
Yeah.
so many more options, and like there's the mind. Everyone should watch it. We will link it in the bottom of the episode. I learned so much even about like my own physical anatomy that they teach in school from a male lens.
Yeah.
That's like the G spot's not even real.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I?
What have I been tickling?
Yeah, anyway. Like, you know.
Poop. I've been tickling shit.
Stop.
One time recently, I was like giggling. I was like, I totally felt like a turd.
Yeah.
You definitely can.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, not going up there anymore. I should put my finger. Why am I like? Ew.
Yes.
And so with that, I also think it's important to pass on consent and communication. I can't
Yes.
tell you the amount of like things I've heard about, even in like sexualized spaces, like bathhouses, friends who've like been to bathhouses and like been sexually assaulted, like consent, and consent is not like, hey, we're having sex, and now you could be inside the orifice or whatever thing, and you can then say, you know what, actually I'm not into this.
Yeah.
You can make out with them and realize that their mouth tastes like they have a cavity, and you can say no. You can stop at any time. It's consistent communication, consistent consent. And it was revolving, and it can always change, and you have that power as a person. Oh, it doesn't feel great. Well, now let's dive deep. I feel like we gotta go deeper. So
Deeper.
To the G spot.
yeah,
Get deeper.
to the
Get
turd,
deeper inside.
to the poopy. How did your early experiences and understanding of sex shape your relationship as an adult?
As an adult.
Adult, not to be confused with an adult, because I don't think any of us are adults.
No.
Adult,
That's such a loaded question. Holy shit.
right?
I think I will start because freedom to explore is what I think I'll like caption it as.
Mhm.
Because my mom was really good at introducing me to various amounts of people and various types of people and various people in different walks of their life. So some were really young and very much obviously in their very sexual flirtatious, and there was also like a lot of bi people, a lot of gay people. Like I was always introduced to a lot of like queer
Yeah.
and in work and in play mode. And so people just had the ability to kind of just try out things, trial and error, try things, and not like have so much weight of like fucking it up or like what like try it once and be like, hey, you know, that wasn't for me, I'm gonna try someone else. And that was just okay. Like it wasn't a lot of thought process of like, oh, you're doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that that really helped me in my exploration with like just life of like just kind of taking it easy and as it is and just trial and error and like dip your toe here, dip your toe there, see what that is. Like I don't know, I'm very much I'll try it for the plot. Like why not? You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Why not?
Why not? Because like try it 3 times. I think that's my thing. Try it 3 times, see if you like it, see if you have any statements on it, see if you want to do it again.
Yeah. I think that like mine because I started so young, and there were some things like where like I explored maybe too young, and then I think then when my like mom found out about it was like, oh, this is not appropriate, and she was totally right. But I think in that then I went into like some art therapy. But I think for me, sex then became like a bad thing because it was because I thought there was nothing for me in my worldview at the time. There was nothing wrong with it. It was consensual, like there was no issues there. But then I think
You had someone tell you that there is an issue.
there was an issue, and it became like a big, significant deal. And I think when I look at it, again, I'm sure my mom's gonna text me. But like, I think when I know and hear about some of the like sexual abuse that's like existed in our family broader and like that intergenerational piece, I understand why those moments became like a place of fear where she was at. But I also think for me, again, they never felt like unconsensual or like bad things, but they became bad things And so I think for me, then when I like come out officially and like am starting in sex, I think there was a lot of like discomfort and like I didn't want to. Like I think I preferred porn, like because I think I found porn probably like 16, 17 on like LimeWire. I used to like torrent porn.
Yeah.
And I remember some like
LimeWire.
weird shit. Like I remember downloading like Lion King gay porn, and then it was like a dog and a woman. Ugh, we don't need to go there. But I did not expect that in the Lion King gay porn. I wanted a musical. I wanted some real shit. That's what I wanted to see, not but like
Guys,
Sally.
plot twist, let's make Lion King porn.
Yes.
Are you
Yeah.
wearing a brown bandana? You gotta go.
I didn't want to see fucking Sally and her canine. Like no.
Oh
But so
my God.
yeah, I was fucking weird. So like, but that's again when like that. Now you can find I think better access to porn and diversity, but then really fucked up shit. But
Yeah.
torrents were like you get what you get, and like weird, scary shit happens. So yeah, then I think I learned from videos, and then it felt safer to like watch the videos because it was controlled. It was just me. It was by myself. And then I think it took me a while, and I think even still at like 33, I'm still like exploring and trying different things and understanding what sex is. But
Yeah, and unpacking all that too.
yeah, coming back to it, restoring agency.
Yeah. Yeah, my relationship with sex continues to change, and for me to like try and analyze like what it means to me, and it's forever changed. But growing up, the first the first thing that I masturbated to was Prince and Purple Rain. I used to like literally like it's just anyway.
But wait, can
yeah.
you sing Purple Rain for me for a second?
Oh.
Someone. No, I just need to hear it and then imagine this. Maybe I don't need to.
Okay, it wasn't even a Purple Rain, but he was in love with Appaloosa. Okay, and she also. This is a great movie because both of them are so fucking hot. This it's so obvious that I was queer. Like I don't know how I missed it. Anyway, but that movie was very tumultuous, toxic relationship with really sexy scenes. His music in that era also was really about possessive, like I want you, come fuck me kind of energy. I also really, my parents were I did see was kind of rocky and fought a lot too. But I got a lot of love from both of my parents. So my relationship with sex was a way to like stay and like attach it. Like if it was toxic and passionate, it meant love.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time, like right off the gate, I really like used that as a way to be like, but you love me because we're still fucking. And then also the flip side of that though too, or like movies like The Notebook when it's just like unhealthy obsession for years. Like that's the kind of shit that I liked. But then
you didn't write me a letter for like I wouldn't have went back.
Yeah. But also, and so this is an interesting thing. As somebody growing up, I wasn't sought after a lot. And so when I did get attention in the sexual way, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I was like obsessed with my high school boyfriend. And then he broke up with me and said, I'm just not attracted to you anymore. And I was always kind of a bit of a tomboy too. And then that flipped the switch. And then I also got called a cock tease a lot. So then
in high school?
In high school. Yeah. So then those two, this is like literally the pitfall. I started then using, I was like, well, you don't find me attractive, I'm gonna fuck everybody that does.
Yeah.
And I slept with a bunch of people. Like I was like one person, and then I tallied up that number really fast. And then I became using again, but from that stand, it was like couldn't believe people found me attractive.
Yeah.
And so then sex felt actually at the time though like really empowering. And then I kind of got into sexy dancing, and then it was like, yeah, all my power is in my sexual energy. Yeah. And that's like the only way I can use it. I actually feel much more comfortable if I have sex with you first, then I'm like, okay, now you can get to know me. Because now you've seen my A game.
Now you know.
But interesting. And and then I had a lot of toxic relationships over and over again. It took me a while for me to be like, oh, I'm associating the turmoil with love because it's passion instead of respect. And then learning that time to like tease that apart, we're like, now I can have really intense aggressive sex if that's what I feel like, but my communication with like outside of the bedroom is like, oh my god. Yeah, is way more like respectful and tender. Okay. Just like, freaking the sheets, lady
In the street.
sometimes.
Power on.
Yeah.
A fistful of dollars.
I mean, we'll take that position.
Sorry, my favorite technical difficulty. What were you saying?
It's like to be a puppet sometimes.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the puppetry in New York with me and and
No. Oh yes, you did. You texted me after and you were like, I was Phil last time. We're gonna cut all this out, right?
No.
We know y'all like to be puppets, okay? Okay.
Explore the full extent of everything is the moral
That's
story.
why I was like, you mean there's not a G spot because you're hitting something?
They're hidden.
There's a stomach line. There's bone.
It's your belly
There's
button.
some organs up in there, little turds up in
There's
there.
there's some organs in this house. There's some organs in this house.
Search my community. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
you're so uncomfortable.
Well, you know what? We're gonna segment this because society norms.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about because clearly we are.
Pretty cool.
Bullet.
This is dangerous. Let's go.
Yeah. I'll be right back.
We lost it. This is why we never filmed together. This is why we're always in separate rooms.
Because it's, yes, why we're always across the country.
Yeah.
Let's educate these hoes.
Yeah, sure. In what ways have societal norms and expectations around sex affected you, particularly as queer individuals? This is a great. Stop calling me a fucking unicorn.
Yeah.
Period.
First and foremost, I'm not a fucking unicorn, and the fact that I can pull bitches does not make me extra spicy and attractive to you because you want a threesome.
Wow.
But I'll have a threesome, but on my own terms.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Or
And
because
it's
I'm a
like,
unicorn.
Yes.
What's a unicorn? Sorry, what?
A
Unicorn is somebody that gets invited in normally to couples.
Yeah.
Or like, it's like, I want to have it, and then the girl, it's usually you are there because of your sexual nature. You're usually fulfilling a fantasy or
at least
sexualized.
only one person though.
Yeah.
Whether it's the girl or whether it's the guy, it's usually only one of them that really wants a threesome.
Yeah. And the other's like a supporting character.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's yeah, that's the, oh my god, that opens up the whole of the door to like ethical non-monogamy and like the I get a lot of, for a really long time I got a lot of like, oh, I have a partner, but I like to fuck you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I, which is fine.
Yeah.
But you get to a point where you're like, why am I not substance enough, or why everyone's out, like, why I just want to be the main, point.
Well, society, that's a lie. We've been told that like romantic and sexual attraction are the same and they have to exist. And it's like, no, you can be romantically attracted to certain. There's someone I know who like, I honestly thought that was strange. But like, he was like, yeah, we're in a relationship, but like they don't have sex. But they're in this like very happy like partnership deal. And they're like, if it works for you, it works for you. But then he then pursues other people like sexually. And so I'm like, oh, this seems so weird and strange. But I'm like, why does this? And then I start to like queer it. And I'm like, oh, it's weird and strange because I have these like heteronormative ideologies in my head that are like, oh, this is what it is. Man and woman. And we're going to have our family. We're going to get our kid and our white picket fence. And we're only fucking each other for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
And then you've got places like the bathhouse. I think actually, by the way, like people who female identifying need bathhouses. Let this be a testament.
Yeah.
Like, you deserve
Yes.
bathhouses.
Like, you always talk about them, and I'm like,
around with some
wild.
I was like, girls or female identify, we're just as fucking horny as y'all.
Yeah.
Like, that's also a societal thing too.
Yeah.
It's like, so the flip side of like being, well, and there's like the stereotypical joke that like lesbians like overcommit really fast. Like
Yeah.
they go on one date.
U-Hauls.
The U-Hauls, yeah. And you go on one date and you're living together. And then so people that I find are identify as fluid, they get the rep of like you're so fluid that you can't commit to anything. So you're not committed and like because for me it's like I'm fluid because I like both. What somebody over here can give me something completely different than what I get over here.
Yeah.
It's not a way of like I want my cake and eat it too.
It's I can't get an anteater
Well,
every
yeah.
But here's oh my God, here's my revelation. I just thought about this. So that statement of like what I will get from one person is not the same that I can get from another is something that I'm feeling is really lacking in heteronormative relationships, which is what usually leads them to cheating. Is because they're trying to get
Everything from one person.
that, but also that they feel like everything that they are supposed to get must only come from this one person, and if they can't find this person, then they must swap the person.
Yeah.
And it's an all or nothing.
Yeah.
Versus like maybe I get this one type of thing from this person, and this type of person gives me this affection, and this person gives me this friendship, and this person gives me this quality time like this. And it doesn't mean that you need to be now in a polyamorous relationship with 5 different people to get all the things that you need.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can open up your brain to be like, I might not get everything that I'm looking for from one person.
And you shouldn't. That's not fucking boring.
Pressure on one individual.
That's like I think again, who does it serve in society? It's like again, how do you get a job and then you have like your benefits and then your partner gets the benefits and then you get married and then your taxes become two. Like it always serves this like nuclear family, which drives more profits because if we were all like polyamorous and more shared, it's harder to sell you a house and like it's harder for society to function in the way that they want it to function.
Yeah.
And so like I think when I look at like gender and sexually diverse people getting hated on by like breeders and a friend taught me this word recently, straggets. I love it. It's like straggets, like straight faggots, like straggets. They're just like so good. Like I love it. I'm obsessed with it. So
I just leave it at that word yet.
#straggets. And so that idea though, they're like it's like the reason why I think in politics you're seeing so many people like come against, especially trans people right now, is like there's an unexamined part of them that they don't get to let free, and so they want to not go to that place, that uncomfortable place. Like when we talk about queering things, it's like exploring, being fluid, opening up that space. And so people who are like straight, they don't want to explore that space. They're scared of that space, so they want to stop you from exploring it because they see a part of themselves in the gender and sexually diverse, and they don't want to touch it. I think that's like. I think that's like
it's all fear-based, right? It's fear of the unknown. It's different, it's new, it's uncharted, it's something that they don't understand, so therefore it's bad or wrong.
And that's
I wish everybody could have a moment or the space or the setup in their life to feel safe enough to explore other parts of themselves. Like if you tiptoe over the straight line and venture into queerness and you
faggot line
and you and you decide that it's not for you, you can understand it a little bit more and like go about your business. It's not permanent. You know, like and as one evolves throughout your life, what you're craving from other people romantically, sexually, time-wise, love languages, all of it will continue to change from your environment, from how much healing you've done, from what you are needing, where you are at your life, which is like communication and deciding where your boundaries are and consistently trying to push against them or maybe not explore them. Like nothing is stagnant. And I think what happens in society is we get so like, you know, like, but I was this.
Nothing can change. You know, once you've gotten that label, you're like, this is what I am. Boom.
So I don't like labels.
And now take it from society into the bedroom, Iran.
B-Ron. Yes. Why do I like that name more and more?
I was just gonna say, was this the third episode in a row that we've got this B-Ron drop?
B-Ron drop. Sorry, I've lost. What's my question?
Just how do we navigate conversations about sex with partners, especially talking about boundaries?
Yes.
And
Safety.
Same practicing.
Aftercare.
Aftercare. Oh my god. Okay. This is actually something that I've really worked really hard on for myself. Especially tapping back into like using sex as a way to feel empowered or whatever. Then also having to flip it and be like, okay, but I want to explore over here, and being able to have those hard conversations. And the only way you're going to figure out what you don't like is trying it. And so you need to have somebody in your life, or I recommend that you are comfortable having these safe conversations with, and having a way to talk about it before. Like, and I know that seems like super awkward. Of course, you can't just be like, but seriously, like, and then you're into these, especially scenarios where maybe you've met this person like right off the gate. Like, there's gonna be shit that maybe you don't whip out on the first like day. Like, if we've just met and you come out and you're like come out with some crazy props, like we haven't had this.
You want me to shoot on your
I'm like, preparing for that right now. But communication is so important, and being able to find ways that you feel comfortable, like dictating like what you need, what do you need more of, and especially as somebody that's maybe in the more feminine role or like bottom role, a lot of the times it's like things gets done to us. And that can sometimes feel like I'm here to service this other person's needs, and then a lot of the times it feels like you aren't able to stop the train or say less of. And I, for one, I feel like my throat chakra gets really locked up sometimes, and I'm saying it in my thoughts, but I can't say it. So I actually have started doing signals, like even like for example, if some like a stop or whatever will be less of a like, okay, stop, because that can sometimes be a thing that people like having a specific safe word like pineapple, where you're like that's or if you like somebody that likes a lot of choke play, maybe you can't physically say like stop, and so like signals like 2 fingers, 1 finger, pinky, like doing weird things like that is also a way to taps, or just like 3 taps, like you're like,
3 taps means stop.
And just being able to say stop. Like, I honestly think stop is better than no. I know that seems weird, but stop for me just feels like really red light. Like, I've actually had an experience where like I was having a really good time, and it was sometimes like at the tip of my like orgasm, it'll be so overwhelming that I'll cry instantly after. And it's God. Do you know how confusing it is for somebody to be fucking you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, yeah. Like, really like dead ass, and I still haven't figured why it happens. Sometimes I think it's like actually like a somatic release of maybe like sexual trauma in the past. I'm not even kidding. But again, I sometimes just tell partners in advance, being like, this might happen, and that's why aftercare is so important. Or if you do something really extreme, and then like you've done some crazy shit, it's been really aggressive, or it has been like maybe a lot of derogatory words are used, or it is really like especially if you're into that shit, you need to then build yourself back into, and even on like less of a wordplay stuff, but like energetically, you've just gone through so much, and you need to like reconnect with your partner or your sexual partner, and like even if it's physical touch, holding space, literally being like, that was really good, how are you feeling afterwards? Because if those things are coming up, and you might have felt great in the moment, but there's been times where I've had to like, I don't know, my little sex demon comes out, and I say and do a bunch of crazy stuff, and then afterwards, even sometimes a day after, I have to be like, I'm like, oh, I don't know why, and being able to talk about that too, like, I don't know why I'm feeling icky about that right now. I need to know, where were you at in that moment? Where did you enjoy it? And then sometimes they'll list like, oh, I really liked how you looked like this, I loved how this happened, and then you start to talk about their view from it, and then it kind of sounds like, oh, like it was a mutual, like we were both in it. It wasn't from a place where like, fuck you, bitch, take it. You know what I mean? It's for like, damn, and I think as you're dabbling in all that, even if it isn't more of the BDSM or the kink stuff, or even just whether it's like really sensual, and also the relationship that you have with sex with a person, different people feels different. It's different people coming together. It's different energetically. It's different communication. Which is why you might have to re-communicate every time versus like, and how your boundary with one person might be completely different with the other person.
Yeah.
Practice. Like, I'm not even kidding. Even writing a list in your phone, like, or whatever, and being like, I like this, or I like this right now.
Yeah.
And then there might be a day where you're like, oh, that doesn't feel good for me.
Yeah, I don't want to do that today.
And that's fine. Or if it's like, is it a crazy freaky day? Or is it like, can you please just touch my face and say you love me and make out with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then spit on my.
Yeah, like
after.
And aftercare and pre-care, so important. It does exist, especially men.
Yeah,
It exists.
and especially if you're doing
Did you say
things.
Ben?
Men.
Oh, okay.
Men.
I heard Ben. I was
just
like,
name drop.
I've
That'd
never
be
heard
crazy.
No, especially if you have multiple partners, like
Yes.
in the same session. Like, I have this huge thing that I always say: everybody needs to make sure that everybody is feeling pleasure, and that includes yourself.
Yeah.
And that includes if you're having multiple partners, like a threesome or a foursome or whatever. Like, everybody needs to make sure that they are taking care of themselves and everybody involved.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's take it to the community. What is our community saying to us today? Who needs our wisdom? Who needs our advices?
I got a question here.
Julia.
Daria.
Guys, all I'm thinking about is sex now.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
I'm glad my
also-
AC is loud, so then I don't hear it.
Also do sorry, tangent. There's an app, or not an app. There's a test you can take.
Oh yes.
Okay, yes. Sorry, I'm talking about this. I did this workshop, and there's, what was it, 5 different types: sensual, switch, or shapeshifter,
Yeah, shapeshifter,
energetic, sensual. I said that already.
There's I think there's 4.
There's 5.
Okay.
It's like the love languages kind of thing, but it's for sex.
Yeah.
And so it's more like, I found it so useful because I've been like, I'm into some pretty extreme, like, weird shit here and there, but I'm not like, I need BDSM kink to like have a good time.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy, I'm very sensitive to the energy of the other person, and that's what makes the sex good.
Yeah.
And so I read that, like, I'm an energetic, and then that means that I can like get turned on looking at somebody across the room, eye contact, music, sensory sounds around, like that gets me revved up.
Mhm.
Some people it's just physical touch. Other people are, everything needs to be set up. Like, I can't think about my garbage. I can't think about this. The space has to be very clean for me to turn my brain off in order to have sex. And so, and then there's shapeshifter, which is just like, you need a little you need a little bit of everything. But I found it so interesting to have it kind of laid out almost like a blueprint.
Yeah.
And then the next time I was intimate with somebody, it even said that people that are energetic can sometimes get, like, with edging or whatever, get like so revved up that they short circuit. So it's almost like you're in it, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have to stop. And that's kind of, I think, where the crying comes in, is that literally just like my endorphins and everything, my body's like, I'm done for a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll also post the link down when we put it, but that was also really interesting. And then my other thing is, there's also a BDSM test, and it's like,
it's so long.
It's
covers
so long,
many
so much things, but I really thought I was a freaky bitch. I read that list and I was like 95% vanilla. And I was like, oh. But anyway, but if you are somebody that's like, especially talking about like safety exploring, like, read shit, talk about something. Like, there was a friend of mine that I knew was into that shit. I literally walked up to him one day and I was like, I think I'm ready to like talk about like what it is that you like, and like, well, like, I'm not even asking like, can we do it, but like, I want to talk to somebody in that world. And then you kind of I started to dabble over there, but you got to find somebody that you trust and you want to communicate. Doesn't mean you have to fuck them, but even just starting to have that open dialogue, the more you talk about sex with other people, the comfortable it is for you to actually be able to talk about it with yourself and with your partner. and removing like the shame and the stigma about it. At the root, sex is intimacy. It's like a beautiful thing, and it should be, and it's pleasure. Like everything that you should do intimately should be based on pleasure, whether for yourself or with the other individual. And it should be equal in that. You can go around it and get to the same thing at the end, and how you approach it can be different, but it's all rooted in pleasure. And if your sex life is not rooted in pleasure, fuck somebody else.
Yeah.
Or have a conversation.
Or yeah.
Soul searching.
Yeah.
Do some soul searching.
Brahman is our sex education. Just a little. I'm just taking notes. I have my.
Well, and also those tests, like those, like even if they're like if they don't change your mind or whatever, I also think that they're good ways to get more information of like
what's out there.
Yeah, and like what like could be like, especially for all I see so many people being like, our like sex life kind of died out or kind of fizzled, and we don't know how to spice it up, blah blah blah. And then they're like, trying to, yeah, call me, no, they're like trying to find. They're trying to find all these different things versus like sometimes like just take a test, read, like even see the questions that some of those things come up, be like, wow, I never would have thought about asking that question.
And take time. Just explore.
Yeah.
Take time. Don't just like be like, oh, this isn't working. Bye.
Yeah.
Try it 3 times before you make a decision.
Yeah.
Unless you have a full body no, then stop there.
Full body no. And if you don't know why you're having a full body no, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if it's a full body no, stop.
Okay, we have a listener. Okay, coming in.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all answer this question. Okay, I know my lane.
Oh shit, read it out.
A listener writes in about feeling conflicted between their cultural background, which discourages open discussions about sex, and then their desire to explore their sexuality as a queer person. They're seeking advice on balancing these aspects of their identity.
Well. No, for those who don't know, like I grew up with like Jamaican foster parents, so like oof, this is my everyone's like.
And if it's not obvious. Yeah, and if it's not obvious. For those who are listening, I am black. My skin color is black, and those who can see it on the screen.
Thank you for identifying that.
So,
You're very safe in this
Melanin.
space.
Yes, melanin is melanin. Yeah, you know what's so funny is that like I feel like the Black culture and like also like I'll also lend this to like a little bit of the Latin culture too. Like any like those really erotic cultures are based like or not based are like deemed so erotic. Like we're so sexualized. We're so like we're raunchy, we're sexy.
Yeah,
we've got
carnival.
the blah blah. But then when I look back at my upbringing and also just like, you know, talking to my grandmother, things like that, like sex is not something we talk about. Like that's not like it, despite being so sexualized, like it's an area that like most Black people, and like unless you're really leaning into it, don't really explore, talk about, or really try and figure out for themselves. And I feel like it's also the ones that like end up in so many different like scenarios. And then on top of that, you add queerness onto it, and it's like
layered.
Yeah.
And that I think that's what comes up for me is like I remember because my foster parents obviously kicked me obviously they kicked me out when I came out as gay because they loved me from afar, but I think going through that experience it's like I learned a lot of my queerness from a show called like Queer as Folk, which was like a very white centric like pretty boy gay show, and it was like this is what it means to be gay, and I was like, oh, okay, like so this is what I have to do. I have to go like have these random sexual relationships. I need to download this app, or at the time there was no app. It was Manhunt before Grindr, manhunt.com. And so I think that was like the hardest part. And so when I think of like where to go, it's like I think TikTok has a lot of communities of knowledge, but like that's also a risk for like misinformation in the modern era. But in this space, it's like find those people that you trust and like Google what the sexual health center is in your community, because sexual health centers have like peer support groups, they have workshops, they have knowledge. Like go search for knowledge, but just like go from the places who do the work, who are the experts in the field, and then find someone to like talk about it, a safe friend or somebody that you can like talk about and share experiences on, because you don't get to, I mean, I couldn't talk about it in my house.
So funny is that it's not funny. I don't know why. It's funny.
I have trauma.
I'm like reflecting on the fact that like I am quite a very like not necessarily a sexual person, but like just very, you know, not afraid to have my tits out. I'm not and to
They're out right now.
yeah, they're out loud and proud. But it's so funny that like that's very public. You know, if you look at my Instagram, you look at what I do for dance and what I teach, it's very out there. There is no way in hell that any of that could get back to my grandmother. My
Yeah.
grandmother would rip me a new one. And it's so funny to think of like, yeah, like we are so over sexualized. We are so, I'm gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. We look at our clothes and all these things. And yet, God forbid that any family member hears that, any family member, let alone being queer and being like, yes, I kissed a girl. I'm sorry, you said that publicly.
Yeah.
The holy water.
Like, you know what I mean?
Holy water. Come. Come.
Do you know what I mean? Like that's it's so I can see how it would be really hard though, like to want to, especially for people who want to express more of that or want to at least even figure out for themselves if that's like an avenue, like, because you know, sometimes you go down and you're like, this is not actually for me, and that's totally okay.
Yeah.
But it is really hard, I feel like, growing up where like to have the tendency to want to do that or push into that and then to have to shut that down or have a version of yourself that's like family friendly,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's I think like what you were saying that like if you cannot, because that's a lot of generations you're gonna have to get through if you really want to go down that road.
Yeah. A lot of
But if you
generational.
don't, then I think then you need to build a new family
I was
that
gonna
you
say,
then can
Chosen family.
yeah, like
that
a
makes you
chosen
feel safe
family or a
and
community
safe.
or at least a place, like even a forum, like even if you can't speak to
Yeah.
a person face to face, like any way that you can get information via person, I was gonna say Instagram, no, internet or anything like that to then help you go down that path if you can't go this way.
Yeah.
Do it,
Yeah.
because that's gonna take a really long time, and it means that it doesn't mean that you don't have to, but like know that if you're trying to get any resolution from that, it's gonna take a minute. And so if that's what you're looking for, search elsewhere first and then go bridge that gap.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I agree. Well, we've made it. Another day, another dollar. Wraps up our conversation on sex and queerness. And I'm also sorry that I put my fingers in your water. I'll get you a new water, Taylor. She's drinking.
She's
it.
a nasty bitch.
I've been a nasty girl.
Can I
nasty.
say one thing since
No.
we're talking about
Wow.
The timing works when we're in person because I can quickly say it, but I've done it before and it doesn't work because you're like,
Go for it.
I just
Ignore
want
them.
to close it off
Yes,
with this
ignore Bremen.
because we didn't talk about the shame and the stigma about being somebody that likes to have a lot of sex.
and I
or
think
multiple-
that's going to be a new episode because that's a lot you want to unpack.
I was no, and I also I think that should be another episode only because like I feel like I'm not gonna speak on behalf of you, but I know that we definitely can talk a lot about that, and I think that we should talk a lot about that because I feel like in today's society it's kind of well because like it's kind of starting to like, or at least it was in society starting to like you have a like I'm gonna be my sexual self, whatever.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've just allowed people to either be that way and we've still shut that where you're like, okay, you're that type of person, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And I feel like we could probably actually really talk about that because it's
Yeah.
just
be
talking.
you're amazing.
Yeah.
Be amazing, you're amazing, and yeah, like if we wanted to make a lighter after our last episode, we wanted to lighten it up with a loose sex, and now let's go deeper into that intergenerational shame.
Yeah.
For next time, well, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on social media, share your thoughts, your stories.
And I hope
You're-
you come in the near future.
Yes, we all hope you come, and I hope you all get to be a puppet master or puppet.
I hope it's the juiciest cum you've ever had in your life.
Live in your pleasure, baby, whatever that is, or have like a really hot hug with somebody. You know?
Oh,
Eh?
that's a hot hug.
Man. Well, until next time, thanks for tuning in.